Hi, my name is Mark and welcome to the channel. If you are here on purpose, you know that we are continuing a conversation on Fair Isle knitting, specifically looking at colors. And if you wandered into this video, welcome. My name is Mark, I knit, I crochet, I'm a big fan of fiber arts, and I'm going on a trip. I'm departing the day that you might be watching this video. As this video is published, I'm heading to the United Kingdom, and I'm going to spend some time in England, in Scotland, and a little bit of time in Ireland, and I'm going to be doing all sorts of fiber-related activities. So stick around for today's video. Let me know your thoughts on the colors you see and any other ideas you might have for me for my trip. Let's get into it. I want to start off this video by responding to a couple of thoughts and messages I had from Saturday's video. Saturday's video, if you didn't watch it, is a little bit of history on Fair Isle knitting, and I show kind of the parameters of the style, what makes it Fair Isle, and I then look at patterns. I do a big pattern search. So I'm going on my trip, I mentioned it in the intro to this video, and part of my trip, part of the goal of my tourism is to come home with souvenir yarn that I can use for a couple of projects that honor the style of Fair Isle. So I'm heading to Shetland, to the Shetland Islands, and I'm not able to go to Fair Isle itself. I mentioned in the other video, it's an involved journey to get there. And so I'm not able to do it on this trip, but hopefully I'll be able to go back in the future and have more visits to Shetland, and it would be amazing to spend some time on Fair Isle. Speaking of Fair Isle and the things to do there, the things to experience, I received a really beautiful, warm, lovely message from FairIslewithMarie. I'll put her Instagram handle here, and she was just checking in with me to see what I had planned for my trip to Shetland. Unfortunately, as I've said, I'm not able to get to Fair Isle, so the two of us won't overlap. We won't meet on this trip, but maybe I'll be able to go back in the future for a specific visit to Fair Isle. If you head over to Marie's Instagram, you will see the incredible things that she does, the incredible type of life she's living. She lives on Fair Isle, and she hosts knitting specific getaways, which sounds like the most beautiful thing in the world, and I'm kind of kicking myself that my trip doesn't include this specific excursion. But if you spend time on her page, you'll see some of the knitwear designs she has, you'll learn about the sheep that she cares for, and you'll probably learn a little bit more about Fair Isle. So Marie was really kind to reach out to me, giving me some information about Shetland, and checking in to see if we might overlap. Unfortunately, we're not overlapping on this trip, but I would love for that to happen in the future. I'm also going to share a link to one of Marie's designs that she shared with me, and it might be something I'm able to use as I'm testing colors or using leftovers from the wool that I end up buying in Shetland. So before we jump into colors and looking at the color card, continuing sort of the silliness and excitement from Saturday's video, I wanted to address a couple more comments and messages that I received on Saturday's video. I had some people reach out and give me the suggestion or ask me if I would consider letting my experience in Shetland guide my pattern decision. And by that I mean, I've narrowed down my patterns. I'm trying to go in with a pattern selected and a palette selected, but at the end of the day, I do want to be open. When I'm there and I see sample garments, when I see pattern books and designers that are featured in Jamieson's of Shetland and Jamieson and Smith, both on the island, I'm totally open to that. So thank you for the messages, thank you for the suggestions, to make sure that I'm not pigeonholing myself with a design that I think I have to do or a color palette that I have to use. So I am totally open, and I'm excited to be in Shetland in person and have that experience to see the colors, arrange things, play with it in real time instead of just looking at a color card or just looking at pictures online. So yes, I'm totally open to that, and I'm flexible. So thank you for the other pattern recommendations. Thank you for the other ideas about the trip. If you have more or you didn't comment one before, keep them coming. I'm totally open to hearing it, and it's all going to help shape my trip even further. So at this point, I'm going to cut to the footage from sort of the tail end of Saturday's video that it just seemed like it was a little too rambly, a little too long. So Megan and I in this footage are looking at color cards from Jameson's of Shetland, and just looking at sort of the color family and shades that I was most excited about. And then I'll pivot to a bit of footage where I'm trying to put these colors together into palettes, and you'll see it's not cohesive at this point, and I don't need it to be. I'm not trying to make my decisions before I get there, but I am trying to go in with some framework, with some idea, so that I'm not just standing there overwhelmed in the store and unable to make a decision. So part of this was a recommendation from Peg, one of my knitting mentors, who said, have an idea of what you might want to knit, have an idea of the color palette, take an inspiration picture, have some parameters set so that you are able to make a decision you feel good about in the moment, which very much aligns with how my brain works and how I feel about project planning. So here's the footage from Mark and Megan. I hope you enjoy the goofiness, a little bit of singing, etc. I don't know if my knitting mentor Peg watches these videos or not, but in the event she does, I need to give another huge shout out to her, because she has given me so much insight for what to do, how to pace the trip, what to make time for this visit to Shetland and also to Scotland, to the mainland. But so much amazing information about Shetland, about the difference between the two yarn mills there, the two yarn stores, and she's given me guidebooks, hiking maps, all sorts of things that are invaluable. So this next part of the video, it's like sponsored by Peg, because we have her color cards here. So this is Jameson's of Shetland, and in this beautiful color card we have a ton. I can't even fit them all on camera. So many, over 200 color examples, and this is showing us the color range that exists across different bases, different weights of yarn from their mill. I think everything I'm looking at right now is fingering weight, but if one of the patterns I decide on is DK, I would get it in that weight. So all of these colors are open to us. The world is our oyster sauce, as I always say.
There's probably an oyster color in there.
You say oyster and I say erster.
Why? I don't know.
Okay. So
What?
I feel like Abby Lee Miller. I always say that I'm not good with color, and I'm not. I have some intuition. I have things that I'm drawn to, and some colors I put together in the past that I think work, but I really haven't delved into, is that the right word? Dived into,
Sure.
Delved into. I really haven't spent time learning about color theory. I need to take a workshop, I need to read a book, I need to watch a YouTube video. So Megan knows a lot, and a lot of my friends, a lot of my colleagues know so much more about color theory than I do. So when I pick my colors, you've probably heard me say, Megan picks my colors, or I get approval, or I get suggestions from Megan. The same is true for Eliza, for Maeve. There are several people in my life who are very, very good with color, and they point out things that I don't register, things about the warmth of a tone or how cool they are. I'll have tones together that I like, and then one of you might point out that one of the shades is just too cool, where everything else is warm. So we can still use a blue or a gray, but it needs to be warm. Is that true?
Yeah. Color theory is so fascinating. There's so much to learn, but at the end of the day, you're picking colors that you like. You don't have to understand color theory. I think that, you don't give yourself enough credit. You pick lovely colors, but not everyone is going to understand or want to learn all about color theory. Pick colors that you like.
Sure. And I say things kind of like that on the channel where, pick a yarn you want to work with, pick a fiber you want to work with. Everybody doesn't need to use the same thing. Not everybody has access to the same fibers depending on where you live in the world, what shops you can go to, who will deliver to you. And then everything has a price. I mean, everything, there's such a range in every sense. So I say people should use what they like. And that's nice to hear for color as well. For something like a Fair Isle sweater where I might use 8, 10, 12 colors in one sweater, and I have this beautiful range in front of me, I would like to get advice from these very wise people in my life. Because if I can make it cohesive, if I can make it balanced in color, as well as balanced in the pattern I choose, then I'm going to be the happiest with that result.
Well, when we were looking at these colors, it was not in a well-lit, sunny space, right?
You're telling me.
We did the best we could with what we had. But I think we got to a point eventually where we said, okay, as we pair 1 and 2 together, maybe to make it look cohesive, 1 would be a darker tone of the color and 2 would be a lighter tone, rather than let's pair this green blue with this violet. So I think that is a really good way to go, and noticing in the patterns after we sort of made that determination, I think that's what a lot of them were doing.
Yeah.
So I think we landed on something wise there. Beautiful colors.
So talking about looking at it in different lighting, yeah, that's going to make a huge difference. The other thing is that we're looking at very small samples of color. What's great about a color card is that we have actual fiber. We have actual, I can't tell where this is, actual yarn on a card, which is so much nicer than just looking at a picture on a computer screen or a phone screen. I mean, that's when there's going to be the most, the most variables, the biggest window of difference. When I'm looking on a screen and my brightness level might be different than the next person's, and the actual photo taken by a dyer or yarn producer might not be accurate. So having a color card, a lot of companies do this. They do this for acrylics, they do this for cottons, they do this for wools, depending on the company that you like to buy from, the brands you like. If you're someone who really wants to see the colors for what they are, it's a great thing to invest in. And they're not terribly expensive. I think this color card is something like 15 pounds, maybe 20 pounds for 220 examples of color, which is great to have if you like using this brand and you want to make more sweaters and projects in the future. You can look at it in person. However, looking at this is not going to be as good as pulling the 10 colors I'm considering, putting them all next to each other in a larger version, rearranging them, holding them by the window, putting them under a fluorescent light, putting them up next to my skin to see, putting them right on my face. Just kidding. If you watch my other videos, you know, I don't really condone rubbing yarn on your face before it is your property. But I do want to hold something near me to see what it looks like with my complexion and my coloring. So we've narrowed down some favorites, and just because you're here with me and you're choosing to spend however many minutes in my company, I want to show you some of the colors we like best, and I will zoom in on them and just give them each a little shout out. And we won't come to a real conclusion until the patterns are picked and then I can actually see these in person. We were having kind of a private meeting here for the pullover, the full sweater. we were saying this could be the opportunity for a more saturated, maybe a moody sort of color palette, because that is the focal point when I'm wearing it. I'm wearing it with jeans or khakis or a navy trouser, so it's not competing with anything else. The sweater vest that I'll make for myself will obviously be paired with some sort of dress shirt or collared shirt under it. So we were thinking going with something a little more neutral, at least as the base, would allow me to wear it more often. One contender for the main background color of the vest would be 105 Isit, and I don't know how to say this, so just bear with me. This cat.
There's a cat under you.
All right, 153 Wild Violet Gorge.
Very pretty.
294 Blueberry. One time I was in Croatia and we were on a bus, not the two of us, I wish. I was on a bus doing a tour, and our tour guide had a very thick, sounded kind of like a Russian accent, and she kept talking about blueberries, and she was talking about the witch, and there was this witch that would make blueberry pie, and my neighbors and I were just so tickled. We were sleep deprived, and it was one of those situations where just something sets you off. And so every time she said blueberry, we were just losing it. Anyway, next up, 165 Dusk. When I was in middle school, my friend Tracy was on a basketball team called the Purple Haze. 1270 Purple Haze. 633 Jupiter. I think what we did was we went through and was like, what colors do we like and what works well, what matches in intensity and the amount of heather, the warmth, the coolness, so that when I get there with my colorblind self, I can take all the colors out, put them together, and then choose the worst possible combination.
See where you are there.
Best. Okay. 155 Bramble. I went to school with a boy named Bramble. I did. His name was Bramble Monger. Like fish monger. Bramble, if you're watching.
Hi, Bramble.
Here's a howdy do. What do we have next?
One of my favorites, 567 Damask.
Oh, I thought you were going to say gentian.
Gentian.
Yeah, that looks great. 567 Damask.
You've got a cat. There's no room. Your Swift might be in the way.
So sweet.
All right, 268 Dog Rose.
I love dog roses.
I went to school with someone named
With
Dog
a girl
Rose.
named Dog Rose. Dog Rose.
I do. I think as a background or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very pretty. That's a very pretty color.
175 Twilight.
180 Mist.
I'm right under it.
Great.
180 Mist. I guess I don't need to say it a second time.
1390 Highland Mist.
318 Wood Green. How cool is that color?
That's amazing.
How many left
720
of this?
Dewdrop.
It looks like a mermaid.
If you tell that story.
So I was watching H2R just at Woodstock the other night, and I was telling Megan about it. She didn't believe me. I said it's a very famous show. So if you've ever seen H2R just at Woodstock or Mako Mermaids, let me know in the comments. Comment the word mermaid and we'll show Megan.
Oh boy.
Okay. All right. 274 Green Mist. Oh, fog is beautiful.
Yeah,
that lady was right.
Thistledown.
Oh, isn't that the name of the people in Bridgerton?
Okay.
Lady Thistledown, isn't it?
Very nice.
Interesting. 140 Rye.
Yep. 322 Lomond.
He'll take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland of all thee and me.
All right, if I find this, will you
never find on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond.
Oh my gosh.
Hide.
Who can even
The
think?
diddle died. The diddle died.
Oh gosh.
The diddle died. The diddle diddle
Here it is.
died.
So is that the main?
People always ask me to sing. I think so.
Yeah.
322 Lomond.
Mm-hmm.
236 Rosewood. Beautiful.
And that was paired with 170 Fjord.
You know, they always say the best wine is,
Oh my.
you know, they always say the best wine is poured wine. I made that up. One of our favorite horses is called Misty.
Very nice. Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, now that we've explored a little bit of that, let me put my color palettes up on screen. This is where I was just trying to drag and drop now the screenshots or screen grabs of the color listings online, which is part of what I'm trying to avoid. It's so hard to tell what a color really looks like from looking at it on a computer screen or a phone screen. But again, I'm just trying to have some parameters, some goals set for this. So I've put together the colors in these palettes. You'll see a random assortment of colors for the Bessie boot, which is one favorite pattern. That's the pullover with sort of the 3/4 length sleeves. And they're not cohesive. There are shades here I like, some pairings and some groupings that I think will work really well together, and others that I don't think fit quite as well. And that could be the result of looking at it on a screen, or it could be because they just don't quite match each other in warmth, coolness, or saturation. Who knows? So my plan is to take this idea with me, and after I get acquainted with the store and acclimated to how things are laid out, after I meet whoever's working that day, I will get these colors out. I will assemble them and then start playing. And so I'll start arranging things in different formations to see how it might stack up in a sweater. And then I'm sure I'll start pulling other colors, things that are not part of this current palette. And hopefully, if there's someone working who has some free time, they might be interested in helping arrange things with me, because they spend a lot of time with this line of wool and these shades, where to me, it'll be my first time using it. So that's the general gist of things for Bessie Boot. Now here's the palette for the Karis vest. And this was one of my favorite patterns I looked at. Again, I won't necessarily end up making these patterns. I might end up picking patterns that I see in Shetland, which was a recommendation from several of you. But either way, I want to start having palette ideas. So I like this palette for Karis. Again, these are more colors than I would need. I think I need something like 12 for the final garment, if that's what I make. So again, I'll do the same thing as Bessie Boot, where I pull these colors, I arrange them, and then I start to play. I start to adjust, which is what I do at home in my local yarn shop, Around the Table Yarns in Shaker Heights, Ohio. And that's why I typically use, almost exclusively, yarn that I can buy local to me, because I can actually feel it, I can arrange the colors and really see if it suits me and suits what I have in mind for a project. Now, another idea that I think I'm a fan of and I'll try it as an experiment when I visit the stores in Shetland, is to take inspiration, to take a possible color palette for a Fair Isle sweater from a photograph, from something in nature, sort of a mixture really of man-made and natural. And I'll put a few pictures here on the screen that are pictures I come back to. These are photos I've taken on some of my trips, and they make me feel fuzzy and happy. They make me feel special. They remind me of a really beautiful trip, a beautiful time in my life, whether that's because of the people I was with, the way time stood still in a moment. Who knows what it evokes, but these pictures that I'm sharing now, they all resonate so strongly with me. And when I see them, when they show up in my memories, when I'm scrolling through an album, I get excited and I feel good. So I thought, why not have a couple of these pictures ready to play with it in that way? To take the picture and see if I can find shades from the lines of yarn, lines of wool, and recreate some of what's going on. And I think that could be really special. And maybe it won't work out for an entire sweater, but it could be an assortment of yarn that I pick up for a smaller project, like a cap or some mitts, something like that. So those are a few of my ideas about color, about narrowing down my decision and coming to some sort of conclusion when I'm there in Shetland. We're in Shetland for 4 days, so I could go back to the shop a few times, but my plan is to go, spend some dedicated time, really explore arranging shades together, seeing what feels the best, of course looking at their samples and exploring some of the pattern options that are available through the shops there. And I'm going to Jameson's of Shetland. I'm also going to go to Jameson and Smith. I looked at the color cards from both companies and considered other things, other recommendations, other criteria. So I'm excited to have this great souvenir yarn, which will one day turn into what I think will be an heirloom project, an heirloom knit, something that takes me a while to do and also carries so much love, so much memory, so much weight, emotional weight. So that's deep. That's a lot of information. That's about all I want to say today. I'm going to take you with me on this trip. I have quite a few meetings planned for the length of the trip. I hope to sit down with yarn shop owners, with designers, and bring some of what they do back to you. So stick here with me if you're interested in any of that in the future. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and feel free to hop over to my Instagram at MakerMarkKnits to follow me there for more real-time pictures, polls, posts of what's going on during the trip. So thanks for being here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you have trip suggestions, color suggestions, anything in the video you saw that you loved, let me know. I'm so glad you chose to be here with me today. Happy knitting, happy crocheting, happy crafting to you, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.